Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. And this is a paid request for Kingpin. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, movie reviews, re-reviews, tributes, tier list rankings, video game playthroughs, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal, to have a CashApp as well. Links are down below in the info box and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. And I got this hole in my shirt, which is annoying because it makes it seem as if, there you go. That's how it goes when you have cats, and cats want to get on your shirt and then rip the shit. But that's not what this is about. Blade Trilogy versus Spider-Man Trilogy versus X-Men Trilogy. You wanted me to compare all three and which I enjoy the most. Now, when I think of each of those trilogies, X-Men is the only one that I could watch all three of them and not be that mad, but at the same time, I'm not a die-hard X-Men guy. So I know a lot of people get mad about X-Men The Last Stand because of how it screws up the story of the Phoenix. But again, all I know about is from what I vaguely remember from the X-Men cartoon back in the day. I remember watching X-Men The Last Stand and going, it's okay. Seems like it has a decent amount of action. Definitely seems like a more action-heavy film compared to, like, the first X-Men. While, of all of them, Spider-Man 3 and then Blade Trinity would be the worst ones of all 6 of these movies. But I would say of the trilogies, I would still put the Blade trilogy at number 1. While I despise Blade Trinity, I despise Nipple H, Preparation H, and his big fat nose. Ryan Reynolds is just playing a precursor to Deadpool. A lot of the times, him and the girl took away time from Blade, from Snipes. They kill off Chris Christopherson again, which I'm like, well, what was the point of bringing him back in the second movie if you just don't kill him in the third movie? That was so fucking stupid. I hated that shit. Dracula, cool idea to have Blade fight Dracula, but they picked the wrong guy. I did not see Prison Break. I've seen Dominic Purcell in a few movies. He was not impressive as Dracula. The way they had him play it, the way it was written, it was just very bland, very dull, unintimidating. You didn't feel like he was much of a threat against Blade. Because Stephen Dorff at least had the personality. He wasn't physically intimidating, but he had that personality, that cocky, younger attitude to him. And then in the second one, you really feel like they're monsters and creatures going after vampires. So you feel their strength and how different they look. And Guillermo del Toro's touch on it was really prominent. One of the many reasons why Blade 2 is my favorite of those three. But Dracula, he seemed like a shitty gimmick for WWF, honestly. With the Berserker, and he's ready to fight fucking Tatanka or something. But Damien Demento. And what the behind the scenes problems, you could tell Wesley Snipes didn't give a fuck during the film. Other than maybe the opening with the car, but even then, I don't think that opening is nearly as good as the first two films. There's not a lot of standout scenes. When you think of Blade 1 and you think of the opening in the club, you think of what he gets his sunglasses back. He's kicking everybody's ass. The Blade 2 when he comes out of the blood bath and it's the name of the game and he's kicking everybody's ass. There's no scene like that in Blade Trinity. And the vampire Pomeranian was just silly and stupid and because they put these characters in because they wanted to have a spin-off with those two, and I think Morbius, which is funny. I think if you watch an alternate ending of the first Blade, there is a shot with Morbius in it. Just someone standing in another rooftop, and the girl that was with Blade, who disappeared, you never heard from her again. And remember that doctor in the first Blade? What the fuck happened to her? She's like, "Who's that?" And Blade looks over, and I think it was supposed to be Morbius. You can find it on YouTube. Which, hell, I would not have minded that if you cast Morbius the right way and have Blade and Morbius go after Dracula and recast Dracula. Don't kill off Chris Christopherson. There's a lot of number of changes you could do to improve that film, but I don't think that guy should have been the director. He was the guy who wrote Blade and Blade 2. Because I don't think he's much of a director. I've seen the other stuff that guy directed, The Invisible, and was it The Unborn? I forget what it was. He's not that impressive of a director. At least his films aren't. But the reason I picked the Blade trilogy is because Blade 1 and 2 are fucking badass. Blade 1 and 2 are badass action movies. They're my kind of action films, even in this whole superhero realm. They're R-rated. Wesley Snipes is a martial arts. He did very well portray that in the action sequences. His swift, powerful movements, takedowns, kicks. It's not neutered. So yeah, like Blade 1, when he has the stuff, the drug that makes them pulse and explode in a red gush of gore. The dialogue, when Blade kind of breaks characters like, "Motherfucker, you out of your mind?" in the first Blade. Blade 2, the back and forth he has with the vampire group that was set up to hunt him originally. Ron Perlman making those remarks. "Can you blush?" Chris Christopherson giving Ron Perlman shit. "Some of us can't see in the dark, you fucking nipplehead." That type of dialogue, the absolutely entertaining action sequences, the more just adult tone, Blade 1 and 2 still work. I think they still hold up. Yeah, once in a while there's a iffy CGI shot, to be fair. But again, their tone, their action scenes, Wesley Snipes as a star, they're all more my cup of tea. They seem more like the action of old that I prefer and grew up with than the other ones. So, Blade, despite the awful shittiness of Blade Trinity, Blade Trinity, Blade Trilogy I would pick. Because of the first two. Are my favorites of all 6 movies. So, of the 6 movies, which are my 2 favorites? Blade 2, Blade 1. So I guess I would put Blade Trinity, or Blade Trilogy as my favorite. Afterward, honestly, I would say X-Men Trilogy, just because I don't hate any of them. The first X-Men is not amazing or anything. I think it did what it needed to do for its time. Incorporating all these superheroes in one movie. Hugh Jackman really made Wolverine his own. I think he's the best part of those movies. Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen did very well. The others, Halle Berry, I love Halle Berry. I never gave a shit about her as Storm. If I think of Halle Berry, I'll think of Monsters Ball. I'll think of Kidnap. I'll think of John Wick 3. There's other movies I'll think of Halle Berry, not for Storm. So I didn't give a shit about her as Storm. There's still a stupid line about the toad. What the fuck was that line again? Storm, Toad, line. X-Men. Do you know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else. That's just like, what the fuck even is that line? Like, it just, no shit? No shit, Miss Sherlock fucking Holmes? I mean, she should have just been like, I'm not saying this stupid shit. Just don't say anything at all. Or, you know what happens to a toad gets struck by lightning? It croaks. That may be a corny ass line, but would have been, even that would be better than, it'd still be a shitty line, but same thing happens. Like, it was as if like someone wants to say something badass and then they forgot, and it's like same thing that happens to everything else. I guess you forgot your line, or that's a, that's such a stupid line. It's funny with the Anna Paquin character, how in the sequel she's kind of forgotten. Like, she was made to be such a big fucking deal in the first X-Men, and by the time you get to X-Men 3, she's kind of this subplot that didn't really matter. Like, she just cheered, and that's it. Like the first X-Men, I thought like the fight between Wolverine and Mystique were pretty good. I don't mind Sabretooth. I like the design of Sabretooth. The Statue of Liberty fight, it doesn't really hold up the best when you look at the special effects. But I like the idea. But if you watch it, it's definitely a bit antiquated. I mean, that was 25 years ago. It's a nice setup for the events to come. I did Hugh Jackman the way he's introduced. And the bar. Thought it was a very fitting introduction to the character. I didn't. Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, they do a good service to those characters. In a weird way, you watch the first X-Men, it seems very quaint compared to a superhero film nowadays. But just it's not wall-to-wall action. I mean, there's stuff that happens, but it's not as extravagant as they would do nowadays, so that's what I mean. But, the first X-Men is not a film I get mad at, but it's not a film I rewatch much. X-Men 2 is the best of the three. I do think that's a fairly good movie. Brian Cox is very good as one of the villains, Stryker, who has a connection with Wolverine. Brian Cox is good. Hugh Jackman does a bang-up job. The characters are a little bit more, actors more comfortable with their characters in the film. That does have a bit more standout sequences than Nightcrawler opening, for example, where he's using the teleportation. You have the classical music in the background. What a great way to open your film. The soldiers going into the school, and you see how the mutants take care, especially Wolverine. Granted, it's still PG-13, so it's still neutered, but Hugh Jackman sells the intensity as best as he could. You had the Wolverine versus Lady Deathstrike, which Lady Deathstrike they kind of pull out of their ass, and then, she's done. You never see her again. So I think they could have done a lot more with that character. Because she really just comes out of fucking nowhere and then have a fight, then she's done. It's like a damn final fight game. There's the boss, kicked its ass, you never see it again. But it definitely felt like they had a bit of a bigger budget. They were more comfortable with the action sequences. And overall, X-Men 2, I think a lot of people would say that's the best of the three. X-Men The Last Stand, yeah. It's funny how those three films have two directors that are now pretty controversial. Bryan Singer, there's all the allegations that he liked to fuck young men. And then Brett Ratner, there was allegations of him not doing the best things to women. So I mean, it's funny how those early X-Men films, each of those three, because Brett Reiner did the third one, Bryan Singer did the first two. But you don't really hear much about that. Like you hear about other films, and ooh, that's from that director. Maybe because they were allegations. It's not like Victor Salva, where it was 100% proof. Just that stuff was taped. But yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that. But the X-Men: The Last Stand, again, I don't know much about. I barely remember the comic book story. I remember a bit of the cartoon, the Phoenix Saga, and I can admit that that feels like this be a lot more prominent, and here is kind of shoehorned in where they set up in the second film, and then you kill off Charles Xavier, but you don't really kill him off because he kind of hinted at coming back at the end of X-Men 3. You kill off Cyclops. Although, to be honest, that didn't make me mad because he wasn't much of a character in the first two movies. Which, if you're a Cyclops fan, I can understand being pissed off about that. I can understand. Like, X-Men: The Last Stand, I won't defend. If people get mad about that, I can perfectly understand. Because if... Okay, my favorite character in Ninja Turtles is Raphael. If they did a series of films where Raphael was barely used and he was killed off like that in the third movie, I'd be fucking pissed off too. So if people hate the film, I don't blame you. They didn't use him well at all in any of the movies. To this day, there has not been a movie where Cyclops was used well. I saw that X-Men cartoon, just the first episode. That was the only one I was requested. And Cyclops was pretty badass in that. But, yeah, it's too bad. He was they made him into a lame, forgettable character. And the X-Men: The Last Stand, the reason James Marsden was not in it much is because he was doing Superman Returns with Bryan Singer. I liked Wolverine running and gunning, kicking ass in the woods against the mutants. At the end, when they make the last stand, just all the mutants, like Wolverine, just kicking ass, whipping ass, killing when they need to. Just something simple about that, where it's kind of more like down the basics brawl. Maybe some didn't like that because they wanted much more of a grandiose set piece or ideas. But something about that was kind of fun and entertaining. Kelsey Grammer I thought was really good as Beast. And I guess they're bringing him back for that new Avengers Doomsday movie. Trying to think, yeah. It's been a while since I've seen those movies. Yes, there's the Juggernaut, where they have to do that meme that lasted for 15 minutes. I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Which people nowadays might not even know what the fuck that's supposed to mean. Because that was a meme that was around that time for a bit on the internet. The early days of the... Well, not early, but those days of the internet before YouTube. Well, YouTube may have been his infancy. No, it would have been around. It would have been in his like infancy. I'm sure that was a lot easier to get stuff viral at that point. I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Which now I kind of chuckle because it's a novelty from yesteryear. if I had seen the film recently, I would give a lot more details about it, but this is one bit where Magneto lifts a bridge, and it's like, oh, well, I mean, pretty big, impressive thing to do. It really did seem like they wanted that to be the last one because Magneto seems to be cured, although there's a hint that he may have a little bit left in the tank. It's Xavier kind of dead, but then not really. There's a little bit hint at the end. Road is cured in a pretty, again, thankless subplot. Cyclops is dead. Jean Grey, she doesn't really have a fight with the Wolverine, just a confrontation. I don't know, that seems like a movie that probably could have had a few more polishes on the script or on some things, but I don't know. Maybe because again, I'm not a diehard X-Men fan, so eh. But I just see people getting mad about it. I just didn't make me mad, but I don't know. Maybe if I watch it again, I would. And then last, I would put Spider-Man because the first Spider-Man I don't like. I used to like back in the day, where when I saw that first Spider-Man in the theater, I was gun-ho into the comics, collecting Spider-Man comics. Oh my god, we finally got this film on the screen. And I see to be or not to be Maguire. And I get it. Sam Raimi is more of a fan of the old initial issues of Spider-Man. I can appreciate that. Those, it's just that those are not the comics I got into to begin with Spider-Man. But that's what he did. So I did it. He wants to pay homage to those past, to the origin of how it started in the comics. So Peter Parker is a little bit more kind of like Opie Taylor, Ron Howard from Andy Griffith's show. Golly gee, Aunt B, are my pies ready? And I never liked Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. Never did. Peter Parker, I go back and forth. Sometimes like, it's okay, but then I'm indifferent. I think just the way he purposely made the films, I will say the word, cheesy. And I know I had one guy who got triggered when I said that. Well, Rambo is cheesy. I mean, what's cheesy about First Blood? Like, what does the word cheesy mean to you? To me, it's an overused word, but campy. I think campy is the word I was using. Campy is how the guy got triggered. Not cheesy, campy. I said, Spider-Man films are purposely, they're purposely made to be campy. And the guy got mad at me and made like all these comments, and I'm sitting there going, dude, the first Spider-Man, look at the costume of the Green Goblin. They had one that looked, I thought, cooler, and they went more for this wannabe Power Ranger costume. And you see the two of them talking on a rooftop, and looks like action figures talking to each other. You're all gobby, out of your mind. Like, those are lines of dialogue. J. Jonah Jameson, I mean, J.K. Simmons is good. He's purposely playing it over the top, and it's fun to watch. Especially like Spider-Man 2, when it's the montage, and they use the song Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. And there's really a freeze frame where Peter Parker's like, and keep going. The extras, a lot of times they have these kind of these kind of overdrawn reactions. Hey, Spider-Man! Like, that's done on purpose. That is done on purpose. There's a reason for that. I not big on Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane. I just I don't mind her in films like Jumanji and that those movies. She just has this vibe that's a boner killer. It is a bit boner killer of a vibe, attitude. I don't know. And the CGI, I think of the trilogies, that's the worst culprit with of the CGI not holding up the best because they utilize a lot more because they had to at the time. So I can't get mad where they're trying to do the best they can at the time, where Spider-Man's swinging around and they're doing what they can. It's just not the best, not the greatest when you look at it today. I love your Macho Man Randy Savage in the first one and Bruce Campbell, their cameos. Willem Dafoe is chewing up the scenery, but yeah, it could be somewhat entertaining. The finale of Spider-Man 1 was even that amazing to me, where it's all God choose between these two. He saves both of them. Gets his ass kicked by the Green Goblin. Has a few punches and kicks. Does a flip, avoids the glider, and there you go. It was a means to an end, but it was not like a finale I'd go back to rewatch ever. I don't know. The first Spider-Man, not being big on Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst's performances, kind of made me lukewarm on that trilogy. Spider-Man 2, I liked. I will say I liked the film. Alfred Molina is very good. The action scenes seem to be a bit more grandiose. Again, the director is more comfortable. The whole action scene with the subway train on top of it, on the side of it, sometimes going in and then back out and on top again between Spider-Man and Doc Ock. Perhaps the best action scene of that trilogy. Sam Raimi used a little bit of his Evil Dead flavor. I mean, the bit where Doc Ock awakens and his arms are killing all the doctors. You have that bit where the doctor looks and there's the chainsaw. Totally nod to Evil Dead. The bit with him losing his powers and kind of deciding to quit. I mean, granted, at least it wasn't his choice. He didn't really have control on it. So maybe it wasn't as bothersome. Like it's Superman 2, where it's like, dude, you just became Superman. Now you want to get rid. I like Superman 2, but that's one of the things that always bother the fuck out of me. I'm like, this is just the second film, and you already want to give up your powers? I get it. You love Lois Lane. I get it. But, dude, that's still kind of a bit fucking selfish. Like, right out of the gate, second film, you already want to give up your powers. I don't know. Maybe if it was like a fourth film, I can understand, but just the second, I don't know. But I like Superman 2 still. But Spider-Man 2, I felt like the people were a bit more comfortable. Special effects seemed a little bit more improved. Alfred Molina, I thought he was perfect as Doc Ock. He was the best villain. He's still the best Spider-Man villain we've had, live action wise, I think. Is Alfred Molina's Doc Ock. He brought sometimes a little bit of humor, but not too campy, bit of humanity, kind of all the traits you need. Or at least that was needed for the way that character was expressed in that film, and he did a really good job in it. Even the action scene at the bank, nice choreography to it. Again, it still has those campy elements. But I keep going with the Raindrops Keep Falling on Your Head because that's a prime example of what I'm talking about with the humor that Raimi wanted to incorporate into that. Some people liked it. To me, it's pretty corny. There are films I like that could be corny. And Spider-Man, when I think of Spider-Man humor, I think of his wisecracks. Like if it was John McClane, Die Hard type of way. But that's not really the case. Plus, Tobey Maguire can't tell a wisecrack to save his fucking life. And Tobey Maguire, he's fine in films like Pleasantville, Brothers he did. I just don't really care for him as Spider-Man. That's my opinion. He's my least favorite Spider-Man. He really is. I know, well, for most, he's his favorite. Their favorite. Especially live action is my least favorite. I would say Andrew Garfield I liked a lot more. But Spider-Man 3 is just a clusterfuck of everything. I mean, I could go on another 30 minutes just on Spider-Man 3 alone. It fucking sucks dick. It's a piece of fucking shit. It's overlong, overwrought. You tell it had a lot of fucking problems. Sam Raimi didn't want Venom, but the studio wanted Venom. Sam Raimi wanted Sandman, a different character. They had to fight back and forth. So Sam Raimi was making a film that he didn't really give a fuck about. The action scenes, the CGI at times felt like it went a step backward, especially the fight between him and Harry when Peter Parker's in his suit and he's trying to get the wedding ring, and that whole scene seemed like it went on forever. I don't think it was that exciting. Topher Grace, I thought was a terrible choice for Eddie Brock. He did not fit it at all. The way they incorporate Venom, it's like, oh, here's a symbiote that just happens to land right there, right next to Peter Parker and Mary Jane. And then it gets on the bike. And then it disappears for like 30 minutes of the fucking film. I'm like, what the hell was it doing? Learning how to shave? Learning how to jerk off? Learning I don't know, playing with his diddle? His tiddlywinks, watching fucking TV when Peter Parker wasn't home? What the fuck was it doing all that time? Peter Parker's an idiot. He wants to marry Mary Jane, but then here's Ron Howard's daughter, or Gwen Stacy. Let me kiss her in front of everybody, which you know your fucking hopeful fiance is going to see that. Just not like it's a private fucking event. I'm going to kiss this lady. I know Peter Parker in this franchise hasn't been with a lot of ladies, but even he, you would think he would know, maybe don't kiss one in front of the other if the other's the one you want to marry. You fucking idiot. Gwen Stacy, she had no reason to be in it. No reason. Nothing was done with her character. I don't even know why the fuck she was in it. So Gwen Stacy was useless and seemingly forced in there. Venom, they took a complete dump on that. The soap opera bullshit where Harry gets hurt, then happens to have amnesia. The fucking butler that decides not to say anything until the third fucking film. All through the second film, you don't say shit. Why the fuck are you waiting on this information, dude? And that butler was a terrible actor too. He was trying to stumble through his fucking lines. Fuck Spider-Man 3. I've talked about Spider-Man 3 a lot. The only other time I'd ever do is if I did, I don't know, got requested. Well, I think I did a commentary, but that's a pretty old one where I had a really crappy microphone. So if anyone ever wants to request another commentary on it, be my guest. I'll rip through the fucking film the whole time. Just fuck Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 being involved makes that easily, for me, the worst trilogy of the three. So it's Blade, X-Men, then Spider-Man trilogy. Fucking hate Spider-Man 3. That is the worst of all six. It's a powerful... I know a lot of people liked it too, and teach their own. I don't get it, but it's not my job to get it. If you like it, that's cool. It's not for me. Fuck Spider-Man 3. So that said, thanks for watching. Take care. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.